Hello students, today we will going to study about the shadow lines written by Amitav Ghosh. Before discussing about the shadow line, first we will discuss about the poet Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh was born in Calcutta on 11 July 1956 and was educated at all boys boarding school, the Doon School in Dehradun. He grew up in India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. His contemporaries at Doon included author Vikram Seth and historian Ram Guha. While at school, he regularly contributed fiction and poetry to the Doon School Weekly and founded the magazine History Times along with Guha. After Doon, he received his MA and BA degree from the University of Delhi, and at about the same time, he also worked as newspaper reporter and editor. He subsequently attended the University of Oxford, where he received a PhD in social anthropology. He then won the Inlaks Foundation scholarship to complete a DPhil in social anthropology at St. Edmund Hall, Oxford, under the supervision of British social anthropologist Peter Linhart. The thesis under in the Faculty of Anthropology and Geography was entitled Kingship in Relation to Economy and Social Organization in an Egyptian village community and submitted in 1982. Ghosh's first job was the Indian Express newspaper in New Delhi. Ghosh lives in New York with his wife, Deborah Baker, author of Laura, writing biography in Extremes. The life of Laura writing and a senior editor at Little, Brown and Company. They have two children, Leela and Nayan. He has been a fellow at the Center for Studies in Social Science, Calcutta and Center for Development Study in Trivandrum. In 1999, Ghosh joined the faculty at Queen's College, City University of New York as Distinguished Professor in Comparative Literature. Ghosh went on to teach at the University of Delhi, the American University in Cairo, Columbia University in New York City, and Queen's College of University of New York, among other institutions. After a stint of Harvard University that began in 2004, Ghosh turned to writing full-time and split his time between the US and India. He has also been a visiting professor at English Department of Harvard University since 2005. Ghosh returned to India to begin working on the IBS trilogy, which included Sea of Poppies, River of Smoke, and Flood. Flood of He was awarded the Padma Shri by Indian government in 2007. In 2009, he was elected a Fellow of Royal named a Ford Foundation Art of Change Fellow. His first novel, The Circle of Region, follows an Indian protagonist who, suspected of being a terrorist, leaves India for Northern America and the Middle East. Blending element of fable and Picaquer fiction is a distinctly postcolonial in its marginalization of Europe and postmodern on its non-linear structure and thick intertextuality. The Shadow Line is a weeping history of two families, one Indian and the other English, that are deeply shaped by events following the departure of the British from the Indian in 1947. The Circle of Reason and The Shadow Line, both written in English, were widely translated and gained Ghosh an international readership. Ghosh also wrote In an Antique Land, a book that struggles several general travel writing, autography, memoir, and the blur fiction and non-fiction. In it, Ghosh described his experience in a rural Egyptian village in early 1980s. When he went there, an academic researcher, and in late 1980s when he returned there. His non-fiction works, including Dancing in Cambodia, At Large in Burma, The Imam and the Indian, The Incendiary Circumstances, A Chronicle of the Turmoil of Our Times in 2005. The Calcutta Chromosome, a novel of fever, delirium, and discovery, represented Ghosh's first foray into science fiction. This densely layered novel offers an alternate history of the discovery of parasite that causes malaria. His subsequent novel included The Glass Palace, a family history centered on the Burma Myanmar between its occupation by the British in 1885. Through its independence after the World War II and into the late 20th century. And The Hungry Tide in 2005, set in Bengal and featuring America and Indian characters. With Sea of Poppies, a novel that describes individual on the IBS, a ship on the seas of Southeast Asia, carrying coolies, indentured labored, and the enemy chest turned away from his, carrying coolies, indentured labor, and opium. Ghosh turned away from his earlier novels, formal experimentation, and toward a more traditional form of storytelling. Sea of Poppies was the first book in the IBIS trilogy, which takes place shortly before and during the First Opium War. The historical series also include River of Smoke, A Flood of Fire, etc. Drawing inspiration from a myth involving the snake goddess Mansa Devi, Ghosh wrote Gun Island, about a rare book dealer who undertakes a journey in which he must face issues of his past as well as climate changes. Now we will discuss about the work done by Amitav Ghosh. His fictions. Ghosh is the author of Circle of Reason, The Shadow Line, The Calcutta Chromosome, The Grass Palace, The Hungry Tide, A Sea Poppies, the first volume of IBS trilogy set in 1830s, just before the Opium War, which encapsulates the conical history of East. Ghosh River of Smoke is the second volume of IBS trilogy. The third, Flood of Fire, completely the trilogy, was published in 28 May 2015 to positive reviews. 121 The Shadow Lines, that won his Sahitya Academic Award, throw light on the phenomena of communal violence and the way its root had spread deeply and widely in the collective psyche of the Indian subcontinent. Most of his work deal with the historical setting, especially in the Indian Ocean periphery. In an interview with Muhammad Korea, he said, "It was not intentional, but sometimes things are intentional without being intentional. Though it was never part of planned venture and did not being as a conscious project, I realized in Hindi side that this is really what always interested me most. The Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, the Indian Oceans, and the connections and the cross connection between these regions." Ghosh's most recent book, Gun Island, published in 2019 and dealing with climate change and human migration, drew praise from critics. The Guardian, however, noted Ghosh's tendency to go on tangents, calling it a shaggy dog story that can take a very roundabout path towards reality, but it will get there in the end. His non-fiction. Ghosh's notable non-fiction writings are in Anti-Clan, Dancing in Cambodia, At the Large in Burma, Countdown, The Imam and the Indian, the collection of essays on the themes such as fundamentalism, the history of the novel, Egyptian culture and literature. His writing appear in newspaper and magazine in India and abroad. His most recent non-fiction book, The Great Derangement, Climate Change and Unthinkable ZUTV, oppresses why modern and abroad. His most recent non-fiction book literature has failed to address issue of transformation due to nature, the great derangement, climate change, and unthinkable addresses why modern climate and how radical unthinkable. He received many award and recognition. The Circle of Reason won the Prix Meridian Intringer, one of the France's top literary awards. The Shadow Line won the Sahitya Academic Award from the Anand Puraskar. The Calcutta Chromosome won the Arthur C. Clarke Award from 1997. Sea of Poppies was shortlisted for 2008 Man Booker Prize. It was a co-winner of the Vodafone Crossword Book Award in 2009, as well as co-winner of the 2010 Dan David Prize. River of Smoke was shortlisted for the Man Asian Literary Prize 2011. The Government of India awarded him the Civilian's Honor of Padma Shri in 2007. He also received, together and Margaret Atwood, the Israeli Dan David Prize. Ghosh famously withdrew his novel The Grass Palace. He has also written many novels: The Circle of Reason, The Shadow Line, The Calcutta Chrome, The Grass Palace, The Hungry Tide, Sea of Poppies, River of Smoke, Flood of Fire, Gun Island. His non-fictions were In an Antique Land, Dancing in Cambodia, At a Large Burma, Countdown, The Imam and the Indian, The Great Derangement, Climate Change with Unthinkable. Amitav Ghosh was an Indian-born writer whose ambitious novels use complex narrative strategy to probe the nature of the national and personal identity, particularly of the people of India and Southeast Asia. Amitav Ghosh is a path-breaking novelist. In his novels, Ghosh treats through historical setting to the modern era and he waves a space where the past connects with the present in the relevant ways. His fiction is endowed with the extraordinary depth and substances through his academic training as a statement from Bharatiya Janpith Read. The discussion was taken in the meeting of Janpith Selection Board chaired by eminent novelist, scholar and Janpith Lottery Pratibha Ray. He was awarded the Sahitya Academic Award in 1990s for his book The Shadow Line and the Padma Shri in 2007 for his services to literature and education. Ghosh's most recent book, Gun Island, published in 2009, and dealing with climate change and human migration, drew praise from the critics.